my god! Oh. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. That's all good. That. So yeah. Anyway, it's been about 3 years since I've done a video. And I did it basically because I did gaming videos for some time, and it didn't work out. I just spent too much time doing them. So anyway, it's not why you're here. The main reason I made this video was because I'm just huge fan of Spider-Man, gigantic fan, as you can see. Yeah, and we got my mug over here. So anyway, the point of this video is the fact that everyone seems to be blowing up about the Sony Marvel deal, including myself. And I've had a few days to think about it, and I finally just decided that I wanted to do a video on it. I watch a bunch of YouTubers, and they haven't covered it the way that I don't know. I feel like it hasn't been covered as well as it should have been. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but anyway. So it seems like really the main issue here is that everyone is freaking out that's the Sony is going to ruin the next Spider-Man movie, which would be Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man Homeless, Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man film in the franchise. So anyway, I just want to just go over basically the whole thing, Tom being out of the MCU, and what this means for the future of Spider-Man. So I'm just going to read off, let me pull it up here real quick. I'm gonna read off the interview here that they did for today for D23. So let me pull it up here real quick. All right, so we have a couple of things here that he brings up, and the first thing that happens is that Tom posts something on Instagram, and fans took it a little cryptically, and I don't think it should have been taken that way. It seems like him and Robert Downey Jr. went on a hike. And then like later you see a caption that says we did it, Mr. Stark, and then it's a photo of them posing with Iron Man and Spider-Man, their action figure toys. So anyway, I'm gonna read off the interview here. I guess this is what he did for his movie Onward with Chris Pratt, which is an animated movie that they did at D23 this weekend. So I'm gonna read it off here. Hey y'all, it's been a crazy week, but I want you to know that I'm grateful from the bottom of my heart. The 23-year-old actor told the crowd, prompting rapturous applause before ending as his brief remarks by quoting Tony Stark's iconic line from Avengers Endgame, "And I love you 3000." So that's just one of the first things he said that really doesn't address anything. So it almost seems like, no, I mean it pretty much confirms that he can't talk about it at all. And then later there was a couple of other things where Kevin Feige said a couple of things, and then Holland goes on to say something else. I guess he talked to EW as well, so that's a little interesting. So basically it goes like this. This is what Tom says. Basically, we've made 5 great movies. It's been 5 amazing years. I've had the time of my life. Who knows what the future holds? But all I know is that I'm going to continue playing Spider-Man and having the time of my life. It's going to be so fun, however we choose to do it. The future of Spider-Man will be different, but it will be equally as awesome and amazing, and we'll find new ways to make it even cooler. And then later, Kevin Feige does come out and say that he's feeling some gratitude and joy about Spider-Man, and this is what he says, and I quote, "We got to make 5 films with the MCU with Spider-Man, 2 standalone films, and 3 with the Avengers. It was a dream that I never thought would happen. It was never meant to last forever. We knew there was a finite amount of time that we'd be able to do this, and we told the story we wanted to tell, and I'll always be thankful for that." And so that's basically what Kevin Feige says in his interview. I believe that this source is from EW. That's where it's coming from anyway. So yeah, that's about where it stands out here. So the main thing to pull away from this is that everyone seems to be blaming Sony for this issue. And at first I was angry at Sony. I was like, oh my god, I don't want Sony to take over this franchise because of Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man. They're gonna burn it to the ground. However, Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite. I am a Tommy fanboy, but that doesn't matter. I do love Tom Holland. I think he's great. I do want to say that it could be a good thing for Sony to take over. The main thing is that with Tom, his version of Spider-Man is great, and I do love him, and I'm not saying that I dislike him or I'm a huge Tobey fanboy and Tobey should be back. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying bring back Andrew either. Those times have come and gone. Tom is Spider-Man, and that's not changing. But anyway, my point is that with the issue with Tom is that he's too geared towards the Avengers, and it's very. So it was nice whenever he joined Civil War, and then you get introed via Tony Stark, and then when Homecoming comes out, you get the Vulture movie, or the Vulture villain, sorry, and his story stems from Tony Stark. Oh, Tony Stark, he's taking away my job, blah blah blah, and I have to do these things for my family because of Tony Stark, and I hate Tony Stark, blah. So that was the reasoning for him becoming a villain, which it was fine back then. But now watching Far From Home, spoilers if you haven't seen it, please stop watching right now. Anyway, spoilers. Far From Home, turns out Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio also hates Tony Stark, and Tony Stark is the reason because of the barf technology. So it's like, again, it's kind of a cop-out, right? So once again, we have another Spider-Man villain. Keynote here, Spider-Man villain, which Tony Stark is creating these Spider-Man villains. So they're not really Spider-Man villains, they're Tony Stark villains. So my point is that with Sony pulling away from the MCU and Tom no longer being in the MCU, it could set up future stories where we actually get a Spider-Man movie, where it's not, and Far From Home really sets that up. So it really sets it up to where Peter and Spider-Man, they become one, they become their own hero, and it's not just, hey Mr. Stark, what do I do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do in this part, or Iron Man coming in to save the day, or yet another Avenger coming in to save the day. So I mean, yeah, Sony has jacked up a lot. The Spider-Verse was great, and I think the misconception here with Sony is that, yes, they have done terrible things in the past with Spider-Man, and that's only because they get involved into the production side of things, like especially Avi Arad. That dude needs to stay the heck away from Spider-Man as far as possible. He can run the Venomverse, I don't care. He can touch the Morbius movie, I don't care. Just do not touch Spider-Man. So that is the issue, is when they try to take creative control and they try to twist the movies the way that they want them. Like, I am pretty sure that Sam Raimi didn't even want the symbiote in Spider-Man 3, and if you take the Venom and the symbiote out of Spider-Man 3, I bet it could have been a lot more fleshed out between Sandman and the Uncle Ben issues. That could have been fleshed out a lot more, definitely. So if you let Sony hire these people and let them do what they're supposed to do, you get amazing things. You get things like Spider-Verse. And Venom wasn't amazing, but it wasn't terrible. I give it maybe 7 out of 10, and some people will disagree with that, and that's fine. You can have your own opinion. The point of that is, this could be a possible good thing, and they've set up Far From Home to where we can get a version of Spider-Man that is essentially not the, I don't want to say Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because that's not the right way to say it, but really the version that Tobey Maguire of Spider-Man represented, that I think that's a reason a lot of people like that Spider-Man so much, is because that version of Spider-Man is a confident, skilled Spider-Man. He knows what he's doing, for the most part. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he knows how to use his abilities to his fullest. He doesn't have any super techie parts in his suit where that he has to rely on, and he doesn't really ask for help. He doesn't have teammates. He doesn't have Avengers to help him out. And in the comics, Peter doesn't need the Avengers. He can take down the Fantastic Four by himself. He builds almost all of his tech. He didn't need Tony Stark to build any of his stuff. So it's really kind of frustrating when you come from someone who's grown up with Spider-Man, a confident version of Spider-Man that doesn't need these other heroes, and you go and you see these movies and you watch this Tom Holland version, and it turns out that he's really relying on these other heroes. So anyway, I'm rambling, but the point is that it couldn't be. It might not be the worst thing in the world for Tom to be out of the MCU. I am sad about it. I wish they could probably keep it the way that it is. And the only thing that's going to suck really is if they have to reference anything from Avengers or Tony Stark in general, because, you know, the whole thing about this version of Spider-Man is that he's rooted from the MCU. Like, he knows who the Avengers are. He knows who Tony Stark is. It's gonna be weird, like, if he, like, 10 years down the line when Spider-Man 6 is out, assuming it doesn't get rebooted, you know. So we'd have Spider-Man 6, and you go back and watch Homecoming. Oh yeah, I know who the Avengers are, blah blah blah. And then Far From Home. Oh yeah, Tony died. And then Spider-Man 3, whatever that's gonna be, end up calling. They just can't reference any of that. So that's just gonna be really weird. Like, this big emotional thing happened in Peter's life, and he can't even mention it. So that's gonna be super awkward. I would imagine if Sony wants more control and they don't want to give Disney that much money, I really, really wish they could just come to at least some sort of deal where they could still keep Peter in the MCU, but not, I don't know, they don't even have to reference that much. They can at least say, hey, you can't bring up the other Avengers, but you can at least say Tony Stark. You can bring up the E of the Glasses, and you can bring up the fight in Endgame. That's it. Don't bring up any other characters. Can't mention Thor, Captain Marvel, Nick Fury, any of the others. I mean, that would be the only thing they could do, you know, kind of do it like Age of Ultron kind of thing with the mutants. So that's the main thing, really. That's the only thing that I can think of that would really mess up Spider-Man, is just to be able to not be able to reference those things, just because they were such core things for Peter that set up this character. Like, I feel like if it was going to end up this way, which I'm shocked and not shocked, but if they knew it was going to end up this way, which they probably should have written the movies way less Avengers focused, way less Avengers reliant, because if they had done that, then this reaction wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be as huge. Then you could be, oh, Spider-Man's leaving the MCU, no big deal, because he's barely even referenced in Far From Home. I mean, it's great how they did it, how they incorporated it, but it's just like they've put themselves into a bind now. So, my honest opinion, I don't think he's going to be out of the MCU for very long. Maybe this movie they'll do fine, and then they decide later, maybe Disney's like, hey, well, we actually do want Spider-Man to be the front runner to the MCU, because that's what they were gearing towards, right? They were gearing him to be Iron Man's replacement, and so that was something that I was actually excited about, was him, because they acquired Fox, that he'd be able to team up with the X-Men and become friends with Johnny Storm and all these things. It's just really disappointing that we may not get to see that now. So anyway, in terms of Tom Holland being out of the MCU, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Part of me thinks they won't make a deal, and Sony's gonna just kind of see what they can do. Obviously, if they haven't seen fan reaction to this, then something's wrong. They clearly have had to have known that there's fan backlash about this happening. So maybe Disney and Sony work out some sort of deal that keeps him in the MCU, and that'd be great if that happens. And if it doesn't, well, we're probably gonna get that Spider-Man Venom crossover way sooner than we expected. So anyway, that is all I got on this video. If you wanna leave any comments and discuss further, go right ahead, and see you guys in the next video.